Jerry Holman because I was trying to find like what he said on Delphi in the past and what should so pop up. But Indiana State Police announces promotion of First Sergeant Jerry Holman to Lieutenant. Okay, that's unexpected based on what we saw, but apparently that is what's going on here. So, Lafayette, Indiana State Police Superintendent Douglas G. Carter recently announced the promotion of First Sergeant Jerry Holman to the rank of Lieutenant. Lieutenant Holman will assume the crucial position of Area 1 Investigative Commander. Oh no, that's great. Lieutenant Holman was selected from a competitive pool of candidates and underwent rigorous promotion process, including a comprehensive written test, oral interview, and thorough assessment of his overall work performance. A native of White County, Indiana, Lieutenant Holman commenced his journey of service following his graduation from North White High School in 1989. He proudly served in the United States Marine Corps until his honorable discharge in 1997. Continuing his dedication to public safety, Lieutenant Holman graduated from the 61st Indiana State Police Recruit Academy on June 24, 2001. He was subsequently assigned to the Lafayette Post, where he patrolled White and Carroll counties. Notably, his tenure also included a temporary assignment in the meth suppression section. Throughout his tenure with the Indiana State Police, Lieutenant Holman consistently demonstrated exemplary leadership, progressing through various roles such as detective, investigative squad leader, and district investigative commander. In recognition of his exceptional abilities, Lieutenant Holman completed the prestigious FBI National Academy in 2017. Beyond his assigned duties, Lieutenant Holman has actively contributed to specialized teams, serving as field training officer, hostage crisis negotiator, and invaluable member of teams such as the Mobile Field Force Team and the Methamphetamine Clandestine Lab Team. Lieutenant Holman resides in White County and is supported by his wife, 3 children, and 5 grandchildren. So, yeah, I'd feel real comfortable having him in charge of any investigation.
Tonight, the lead detective on the Delphi case tells me although the killer thinks that he got away, every single day lab techs are working to process evidence, including DNA that was left at the crime scene.
It takes a lot of time, and we want to be very thorough, so we want to take our time, make sure our I's are dotted, T's are crossed, but it's a tough case.
A case Indiana State Police First Sergeant Jerry Holman has worked every day for the past 6 months.
We're getting closer every day. I know that's cliche, but we are.
Dozens of state, local, and federal agencies still working around the clock to track down the man they believe killed Abby Williams and Libby German while the girls were out on a walk on the Delphi Historic Trails in February.
We're stronger than ever.
Police tell me they've conducted hundreds of interviews, followed up on thousands of leads, and served dozens of search warrants to find clues the killer may have left behind. Was there DNA evidence found at the scene of the crime?
I think at every crime scene you have, you're going to have DNA. We're still working on identifying whose all DNA we have there.
Along with DNA evidence, police also have the suspect's voice. Police tell me Libby recorded the killer's voice on her cell phone, telling the girls to go down the hill. Investigators say she hit record after he approached them near the Monon High Bridge. Today, Sergeant Holman tells me they recovered even more audio from Libby's phone, which was found with the girls at the crime scene.
We've only released a portion of it. There's some others that we think could help us, but again, protecting the integrity of the investigation is the key here. So we can't release everything we have because there's only certain people that know the details. And if we release everything, then we get into possible false confessions.
Sergeant Holman says several people have come forward and said they saw the killer walking on the trails the day Abby and Libby were killed. Those people helped develop this composite sketch that was released last month.
Is there anything we did or didn't do that jeopardized this case? No. I still believe somebody knows. Somebody knows what happened. For whatever reason, they won't come forward.
Every single day, dozens of detectives are still working the Delphi investigation and tell me they are not giving up, still following up on thousands of leads, but they need your help tonight. So if you recognize that man's picture or
marked 6 months since Abby Williams and Libby German were found murdered in Carroll County. Half a year and still no arrests. Detectives on the case say the crime is something they just can't stop thinking about. Indiana State Police First Sergeant Jerry Holman says they are still working very hard on the case, especially now with more than 24,000 tips and leads they need to follow up on. State Police released this sketch of the main suspect back in July. Holman says they've received more than 3,000 tips just from the sketch, and it's helped bring in more reliable ones. They've also been testing and comparing the DNA left at the crime scene almost daily, hoping it leads them to the killer.
You know, the question is, do we have DNA? Yeah, we have DNA. We just, you know, we're still working on determining what kind of DNA. Is it the victims? Is it known family members? Is it our suspect?
Investigators say there has been a group of detectives reviewing old evidence and old tips and leads to make sure nothing has slipped through the cracks. Holman says it has helped lead them to other evidence. So anyone with information on this case asked to contact investigators. The tip line, 844-459-5786. The reward for information is at more than $230,000.
Hear and see anything back then that they were thinking and see how it correlates today.
Motivating them to do the investigation. But yeah, I don't necessarily encourage them to go out there without permission because it is private property, and sometimes we overstep our welcome or our boundaries there. So, but if you did it the right way, and somebody finds something and they do it the right way, and they contact police right away so we can collect it properly, then I would say, yeah, it could be beneficial.
Curious about the sketch on the screen, Sergeant, because the grainy picture doesn't show the face. But there were witnesses, if I'm not mistaken, who were able to lend information that got you to the sketch. Can you tell me a little bit about the witnesses? Where did they come from? What did they see?
I don't want to go into great detail, but they were near or on the trail. We have several sketches, but we've identified some of the people that they sketched. One of them was Mike. After when they were,
hey, I was out there looking that day. I mean, when
they called the police
came in.
Yeah, let me clarify that. I know that, but after there's plenty of people out there, numerous people out there afterwards helping with the search, and we got a lot of sketches of those people as well, including Mike. I think maybe not, but this sketch is several months. It didn't just happen in one day.
It came out in August, correct?
What's that?
It came out in August or July? Okay,
Yes.
so the summer following the February 13th murders.
Right.
That's when the sketch was released. So it's interesting to sort of get that information.
Yeah, why so
several
long?
months. Yeah, why so many? I'm pressing you here, obviously.
You can ask the tough questions. I'll answer. Again, it takes a lot of time. I'm not a sketch artist, but the FBI actually, an agent from the FBI did this sketch. And, I think when somebody sketches, it takes like 10 minutes. It takes several weeks. But to get the information, to find the people that we believe saw that person that day near the time of the murders, that takes months. So we had to locate these people, interview them, find out who they really saw. Did they really see the guy on the bridge from the video? Or did they see Mike out there helping search? Or did they see somebody else out there helping with the search? So we had to identify those people. And once we felt like we identified the people that
for sure,
actually
blind
saw
squirrel, for
the guy
sure.
on the bridge, then the sketch itself took, again, several weeks. They sketched it, looked at it. No, that's not correct. And I will say that there's a couple people still aren't convinced that that's the proper hat, but that's the hat that the sketch artist could come up with, as close to what the witnesses were describing. Lieutenant said, don't focus on the sketch, and we got a lot of calls on that. I think what he was meant to say was, where there's 4 or 5 of us up here right now, and if we pick somebody out of the room right now and identify them to a sketch artist, there'd be 5 different sketches that have the similar features as we believe the sketch has of the guy on the bridge, but they'd be a little different. So I think that's what he meant is, the person that did this heinous crime may not exactly look like that sketch. That's what the person's information, and then the sketch artist had to take that information in and then put it on paper. So it's not always going to be perfect, but we think that's a really good sketch, and we think it's really close to the person that we're looking for that's on the bridge.
You know, I'm glad that you said that, because we all think that if you see someone, you could describe someone and get a great composite sketch. And I recall when we were covering the death of Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri, the person who described what she saw, which lent to so much news coverage, ultimately had to admit that she saw it on TV, that she hadn't actually seen the thing at all, that she thought she had. Her memory was that she'd seen it, but that ultimately she'd seen an account given on television and then recited the account that was given on television. And I think it was, you might all remember this, it was because it was very specific, the expression she said, he was shot down like a dog. And shot down like a dog had been a quote that had run on the news that night, over and over and over and over again. And so it was just sort of intriguing to see how people who see something somewhere else can ascribe that to what they think they saw at the actual moment. I want to ask you, Anna, if I can, the notion that when something like this happens, just like holding something back that only the killer would know is crime fighting 101, also looking at the families first is crime fighting 101, and it is excruciating for families. Can you help us to understand, those of us who have not walked in your shoes, what it is like not only to be going through this awful grief, but to know that you're being questioned and scrutinized?
It's the worst kind of famous a person could ask for. They go through your photos, they go through your friends, they call, email, private message people that you haven't seen in years. They dig into everybody's life. And they come to you saying, well, I heard, I know, somebody said. And I'm like, why are you even coming to me with this? You heard, you think, whatever it may be. We found that social media is wonderful for the fact that we get these flyers out so fast. The posts of the girls missing went out so fast because of social media. But it can make people feel so very connected that they don't realize how intrusive it really is.
And angry and troll-like.
Yes.
Troll-like.
That they take it upon themselves to send you things that you really don't want to see, you don't really want to hear. It's not our jobs. We've all encountered somebody. I just know it's this. I just know it's this person. And please call Jerry at the tip line. Please call somebody else, because I can't do this.
Yeah.
The
parents of the children who were, and they're called liars, they're called conspiracy theorists. There are people who've been arrested for doing this kind of thing. Have you had any of this happen to you?
I haven't had anybody arrested, but I've had my fair share of shots taken at us.
Really?
And a great tool, because you can quickly get things out there and share it, and all of a sudden, it's 100,000 likes or something, quickly, and it gets out there. But people jump to conclusions. I mean, let's face it, this sketch, I have features that resemble that. Most Midwestern guys, with my build and stature, can look like that.
Yeah.
All right. It's not me. Jerry, and Doug would not travel around the United States with us. They've checked me. I was at work. I have to badge in twice. I'm on camera. I mean, but people won't take that. Doesn't fit their agenda when they're out there.
Exactly.
It's easy to hide behind a keyboard and take shots and say it's Mike Patty. He's the worst guy ever. I've been called everything. Trust me. It breaks my wife and my family down to tears. And I tell them, guys, I'm not going to let that bother me. I will not let naysayers and people. I'm not going to let these naysayers and people
We're gonna jump ahead just a little bit.
And the focus.
So you were asking them about how the police treated them during this investigation, and I've said this multiple times. I've tried so hard to put myself in these people's shoes. I can't do it. I try. I don't even want to be in my shoes, let alone their shoes. But when I was standing at the bottom of that hill that night, like
Yeah,
every other investigator,
exactly.
we thought, you know, you're going to laugh at this, but first 48, we'll have somebody in custody. And we didn't. And then reality set in, and it really hit home. But I will say this, we will treat these family members with the utmost compassion because they've been so cooperative with.
Ma'am?
I have 2 girls, and that's what really struck me about this case. What is law enforcement hiding, and why? The frustration that I'm reading online that is abnormal. The refusal to release more information is actually impeding the investigation because people are feeling very frustrated. So I guess I'm giving you a chance to sort of respond to that.
We have to protect the integrity of the investigation and to protect the family. The family doesn't want us to release the details of this.
They don't?
No, absolutely not. Would you?
Well, I think at this point, after 2 years, where there's been no movement on the case, if I were a family member, I would ask law enforcement to release more information because.
And they have, but.
And what specifically?
Oh, they've asked us to release more of the audio, more of the video, but we're not.
They have then.
Yeah, they've asked, but there's some details in there that I don't think that if I was a family member, I would want the public to know.
You don't think cause of death or mode of death would help narrow the playing field?
No, I don't. Not at this point.
Did you find a lot of evidence on the location where the bodies were found?
Can't really talk about what we found, what we didn't find. And
Do you have the phone?
yes.
You do? It was recovered? Wow. So are you able to investigate all of the people on her social media sites?
Yes. We have knowledge of who she was communicating with. We feel like that photo, that voice is enough for the public to help us identify the person. That's all we want.
But the public hasn't helped you, and it's been 2 years based on the information that you've released?
That's all we can release at this point.
That's a couple of weeks
Early
out.
December, January.
I mean, don't you think that's relevant?
Yeah.
Did you bring that to the cops?
Yes, I did.
You did, and they did what about it?
They took pictures of it. I hadn't heard anything after that.
Okay. Unheard of. I mean, Libby seems to have been on several different platforms. She didn't have any kind of privacy settings or anything like that on it. I mean, you can see it here. Look at how she describes herself. And
Liberty German, single Pringle. I'm 12 years young.
she was on Musical.ly at the time, right? This is her bio. Check it out. It says, "Patiently waiting for Peter Pan to come take me away to Neverland." This is actually one of the posts that she did with Abby. This is close to the time before the girls went missing, right? So I looked at the comments of the people that were corresponding with her, and see there's this one here that says hi, and then Libby says, "Who are you?" Right? Well, he never answers. So I looked into who it is, and it turns out that he is 48 years old. He lives here in Delphi, and he's a felon. That's not the point. The point is that she was very exposed.
What about the families?
The other day I met with the Patties. So Liberty was living in the house with her grandmother and her grandfather. Her father also lives in the house, Derek German. Derek German has not gone on camera. He has not responded to, any requests to make a statement about what's happened to his daughter. I don't know much about it, but tell me what you think of all this.
This is Derek.
Liberty's dad.
Well, there's a felony, misdemeanor and another felony, and they all look like possess and/or manufacture drugs.
Meth. You get the picture that this was around Libby in that house.
All that says to me is there's drugs and these girls were murdered. They're not necessarily attached.
All I'm saying is her dad was involved in some scary stuff, and maybe she got caught in the middle of it somehow.
Something like this tragic of an event to happen in a small town like Delphi. And I think it took a while to set in, and then it was just total chaos. I mean, the investigation with all the help that we got was just total chaos. And we were able to get that to controlled chaos.
Excusez.
And then I joke around about becoming an oiled machine. And now I think it's a well-oiled machine where it's very manageable. And we're making a lot of progress. But yeah, it's pretty traumatic for everybody involved, not just the community, but every investigator that's been up here. But I think we all have a job to do. We all focus. We're very professional, and we're going to find who's responsible for this and make sure that we get justice for Abby and Libby. I mean, Abigail Williams and Liberty German did not deserve this. And I think my passion is getting justice for them and their families and the community.
People often forget that officers and detectives are real people as well. And emotionally, this is difficult for everybody involved.
Weekend, especially early on, we were working 20 hours a day, 7 days a week for the first couple weeks. So for me, early on, to take a day off, I would sit at home and think about, what can we do to get justice for Abby and Liberty? What have we done that we could go back and do better? And the detectives are the same way. Everybody that I talk to, once you get here for a day, you're invested, and it's hard to separate from that. And that's raw emotions. I mean, it's tough, but we're trained professionals, like I said earlier, and we just have to know that the end is coming, and that the only end for us is to get justice for Abby and Libby. In this case, I've never seen as many resources thrown at a case like this from the FBI, the state police, DNR, Indiana Department of Homeland Security, everybody, every resource that we can think of that is available has been used.
When you have
probably most people that you talk to about me would say I'm not very emotional, but this has got me very emotional, and you have to take a step back and really appreciate life for what it is. But we went back to them and talked to them numerous times, and I know that probably gets frustrating. But they have been so cooperative with us and so patient with us because this is a high-profile case. We don't want to rush into anything, so we are going to take our time and dot our I's and cross our T's and make sure everything is done as close to perfect as possible. Just try to maintain that professionalism and keep in the back of my head that I need to be here for Abby and Libby because I'm going to find who did this, and then we are going to hold them responsible for their actions. I've never had this much support. Usually law enforcement's on the other side of it, and we're not respected or treated like kings and queens, and the community has just been tremendous. I mean, I can't even begin to tell you how grateful we are for what they've done. It just shows that the community cares about us, and we care about them, and we're going to continue to work with them, not just Delphi, but Carroll County and the surrounding counties and cities. They've just been so helpful.
I know you can't predict the future.
Like Flora, perhaps, maybe now would be a good time to just mention that case while you're already talking to the media, but since you didn't, I will.
What can you tell us about this investigation, Kiera?
Sam and Trevor, this is the home behind me on East Columbia Street where that tragedy struck. Now, even though the mother, Galen Rose, chose to move outside of Flora after the fire, there are some family members that chose to stay behind and help Rose seek justice.
It's kind of, just like be quiet, because we feel like our girls was left behind in a lot of situations.
On November 21st, 2016, this home on East Columbia Street in Flora was engulfed in flames. Keone, Kiara, Carrielle, and Kiana didn't make it out of the home alive. Only their mother, Galen Rose.
It's tough for me to have to hear her cry all the time and not knowing what to say to ease the pain, because none of us will ever know the pain that she goes through.
They were Jacqueline Parlow's great nieces. She says this investigation is frustrating.
There's nothing we can do about it, We're not detectives, and everything. So we have to trust and believe that they're going to do the best that they can to help my nieces.
The Indiana State Fire Marshal's office ruled the fire was intentionally set. This announcement was followed by several officials involved in this ongoing investigation resigning. Now, Indiana State Police First Sergeant Jerry Holman says ISP is the lead investigative agency in this case.
But I think what the community wants to know is, are we still actively pursuing the persons responsible for this? And yes, we are.
He says ISP has 2 detectives assigned to this investigation full-time.
And yes, we do have solid persons of interest in this case.
But he also believes there are people withholding information.
It's very frustrating for the family, very frustrating for the community of Flora, and very frustrating for us.
Holman says people need to overcome their fear.
And know that we will help them remain anonymous if they have information that will help us put the people behind bars that are responsible for this horrible crime.
There's more than $25,000 in reward money to help find the person responsible.
I just pray that the person that did do it have a conscience, and if they don't have a conscience, I hope it runs them crazy.
After the fire, she says she no longer comes to Flora often, even though people she loves are still there.
But at the same time, just to hang out, no. It's painful to stand right here. It's painful to see that thing that says my niece's name's on it where we don't know what happened to them. It's painful to look at that house and say, they died there. That's some painful stuff. So coming through here is painful.
For the memorial, Parlo hopes at least a few people come out and remember the little girls. She's not hoping for a crowd, but would appreciate a turnout. But as for family and friends,
we're going to be here regardless. I know I will. If I have to stand out here by myself and let those balloons go, I will stand out here by myself to support my nieces, because I know God has them. So if they watch it, they'll know my Aunt Jackie, she stuck to what she said.
Well, anyone with information about this case is asked to call the arson hotline. The number is 1-800-382-4628, and calls can be made anonymously. Now, friends, family, the community is all invited tonight here at Pizza King on East Columbia Street. Now, it's located just across from the street from the house. It's going to be starting at 6:30. There's going to be food, a time for prayer, and also the night will end with a balloon releasing to honor those little girls. Reporting live in Flora, Kira Lake, News 18.
Powerful interview from Aunt Jackie there. Kira, thank you.
That can push your guys' investigation over the edge to a possible suspect.
Even multiple tips. We get multiple tips on the same person. That doesn't mean that's the person. A lot of people might hear us talking about that. We've got multiple tips on one subject. That doesn't mean that's the subject. So if you're thinking, well, they've got multiple tips on John Doe, I'm not going to tip on this person, but I believe it might be him. Well, don't do that. If you believe, whatever you believe, why ever you believe that, you need to call that tip in. Because that's might be the piece of the puzzle that we're missing that we need to put everything else together. And I do believe, I didn't for that to call in this tip. If it's a family member and you're afraid to tip on them, then we have the anonymous tip. But this person's evil. This person is a monster. This could happen again. So if you're holding that information for whatever reason, you need to think of that. This could happen to your niece, daughter, cousin, sister. This could happen again. And that's one of the main reasons I lose a lot of sleep, because I don't want this to happen again. And I think somebody out there has the tip that is that final piece of the puzzle, and they're waiting for whatever reason. We don't want them to wait. They need to call that in as soon as possible and give us all information about who you believe did this. And I would get on my knees and beg that person to do that. I would plead with them to call that tip in and give that information. And if for some reason you can't get through the hotline, go to your local police station personally and tell them how important this is, and they will contact us, and we will get somebody to take that tip.
I cast my vote. Now it's time to do the job. And that applies to me. That applies to everyone else that ran.
Holcomb is also speaking out about a recent break in the nationally known Delphi double homicide. Details about suspect Richard Allen are controversially sealed.
I would never advocate for prematurely disclosing information if it compromises the integrity of the investigation.